Minister King X is a prominent artivist and director of California Prison Focus. He focuses his talents in the arts to mobilize support for the prisoner human rights movement. Today, he discusses with our panel of community activists, educators, and advocates. Sitawa Nantambu Jamaa is an advocate for prison reform and peacemaker in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Jamila Land is a tireless advocate for justice and co-founder of the Anti-Violence Safety and Accountability Project, focusing on the mental health and well-being of children and families impacted by violence and incarceration. Naru Quing is an educator, artist, and co-founder of the Alternative Minds Foundation, integrating cultural diversity into education and enriching the minds of the next generation. Ras Kass is a hip-hop icon and advocate for social justice. And Jeremy Miller, an advocate for justice and peace and organizer with Black Alliance for Peace.
How y'all doing today?
We here, we woke up.
Boss got them together to explore the critical role of activism in the liberation struggle, focusing on topics such as prison slavery, the agreement to end hostility, the Racial Injustice Act, Black Identity Extremists, and other systemic injustices.
This discussion will explore the critical role of artivism in the liberation struggle, focusing on topics such as prison slavery, the agreement to end hostility, the Racial Injustice Act, and again, Black Identity Extremists. We got Jeremy, I see Jeremy here. I see Naru, my sister Jamila here, Sitawa, and we got the most famous Ras Kass, man.
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro? We
well.
back at it again. Back at it again.
Who are you?
I'm Minister King X, California Prison Focus, Cage Universal, and today we doing Boss Talk to the Artivist Cadre. How can we resist our own vices and begin to become our own liberators? Because a wise man once said the journey to freedom begins from within. So we gotta liberate ourselves first.
Today is the day that a man gave up his ultimate sacrifice. It was Reverend W.L. Nolan and two colleagues that they killed on Solidarity Yard. That was the birth of what we call Black Organization Day. You know, I had to serve out 43 years in a system that tried to destroy people's minds, hearts, and souls, and try to extend it to my sisters and brothers on the streets. United together, we're more stronger than we are individually. So we had to take that to task, let everybody know we are one family, we are one purpose, we have one objective going forward from the cell block to city block.
Sometimes we all got a different worldview, a different school of thought, different philosophy, different religions, and it could be spiritual, political, sectarian, but one thing we all got in common is this thing called Ubuntu. It's an African proverb where it talk about shared humanity. And so when I think of Germany, we always out there fighting and building at the same time against the system. And the same thing with my brother Naru, who's an artivist. I think of Naru and I always think about Tupac, the teachers of art. But I want to show you, before we get to Jeremy, I want to show you all in the audience this piece that me and Brother Sitawa, we was working on. It was never finished, but it was through California Prison Focus.
My brother Sitawa was a part of the Asher case. It started up at Pelican Bay. They had 3 hunger strikes. The first one had 6,600 people. The third one was in 2013. And that one was 30,000 people who participated.
And we decided to go on a hunger strike. We wrote to the newspaper and put them on notice, and we sent them a copy of our demands.
They wanted to have healthy food, nutritious food. They wanted good medical. basic stuff.
We were subjected to inhumane treatment, inadequate health care, inadequate medical care, you know, you name it. There was a whole lot going on at the time.
These guys were all in solitary confinement, and they wanted to be released.
It was fighting for our humanity. It was fighting to be treated equal. They subject you to retaliation, and if you don't go to work, they subject you to retaliation.
Well, you know, on a related topic, let's talk about designation is the way I want to flip that. Let's talk about designation and how that relates to discrimination. But first I want to say it's an honor to be in conversation with y'all and an honor to just be participating in an observance of Black August, as Elder Sitawa said, in honor of all those who made these ultimate sacrifices, in particular George and Jonathan Jackson, rest in power. You were designated not by your community, you were designated by the state. And this is really critical because something that came up in the beginning of this dialogue was a newer designation, something that only dates back to 2017, Black Identity Extremists. How do I say this? Embodied objective meaning to it other than you are a Black person or a new African that is willing to fight for your liberation. The problem is, when the state makes a term like that, there are legal repercussions. It's not just some name calling. And remember that every time that comes up, that's a way that they're of divide and conquer, and that there's always a body count behind that. I'll leave it there.
So that brings me to Project 2025.
Well, for those that don't know, Project 2025 is created by the Heritage Foundation. Let's see, about 900 pages, 900 plus. It's basically what their goals are, right-leaning, alt-right-leaning, their plan. They kind of like their outline. And they apparently since, what was his name? The actor, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
They've been implementing, they'll give an agenda and they
50-year
execute
plan.
it. Yeah, Trump executed, in his first term, he executed, I believe it was over 50% of what, so his agenda, his policies were those policies, and he executed about 60% of it. No fault divorce, complete ban on abortions without exceptions, ban contraceptives, additional tax breaks for corporations and the 1%. Somebody just passed it, Alabama maybe?
What's that?
They're enforcing the 10 Commandments in every classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And not to just to stop you, but that reminds me, I think in Florida, they have to ask the parents for permission to talk about Black history.
Well, he pretty much banned it.
Right.
They got rid of all, you can't talk, you make white people feel bad if you tell them history.
Right.
We can all expand on that too. I want me to get,
Yeah,
because I definitely had a thought
keep breaking that
about
down.
that. Where were we at? End free and discounted school lunch programs. And you know, the Panthers started that. The government didn't even start that, you know what I'm saying? So, let's see, I'll run through the rest of them real fast. End civil rights and DEI protections in government, ban African American and gender studies in all levels of education. They want to ban books and curriculum about slavery. They want to end climate protections, increase Arctic drilling, deregulate big businesses and the oil industry, promote and expedite capital punishment, end marriage equality. They want to condemn single mothers while promoting only traditional family values. They want to defund the FBI and Homeland Security, use the military to break up domestic protests, which is illegal, mass deportation of immigrations and incarceration camps, end birthright citizenship, ban Muslims from entering the country, eliminate federal agencies like the FDA, EPA, NOAA, and more, and they want to continue to pack all the courts and the lower courts. This Project 2025, it's also not only all this information about this, they also have a whole section of like-minded people. They have like a list of like 30,000 people that you should reach in Oakland, in LA, in Texas, who you should employ, and they also have education, an online education thing. And so when Trump and them just got hacked, his campaign, which they're blaming Iran, 3 or 4 days ago, they leaked some of the videos of this free education and keywords of how to deal with black people. Like, it's ill. So it's not fake, it ain't rando, and a lot of people, a lot of times we get wrapped up in our day-to-day, because life on life terms, but that, and I was gonna build with you about that when you were saying that, like, when you take that time to fast, but it's only 2 places where you get to learn. Like, where you have the time, most of us are parents, or you got somebody you love, or you're trying to get this money, you gotta pay these bills, the rent don't ever change, and that's how they get us. I always felt like that. The only time I ever had time to think was prison. I ain't gonna lie, aside my second term. When they arrested me, I said, well, I ain't going to the club. I ain't gotta pay no rent. I had nothing but time to think. And it's unfortunate that that's the condition that they keep us in. And we're gonna have to individually find that time to be able to read and learn, because there are all these other distractions and they make life extremely difficult. That's why they're doing this stuff, to make your life difficult enough so you never look up. And I don't wanna just survive, I wanna thrive. That's what they've been having us do for 2,000 years, since the Romans was whipping on the Hebrews. We've been surviving. Fuck, pardon my French. We don't deserve to survive, we deserve to thrive. All humans deserve clean water, real food. You understand what I'm saying? So we gotta get out of this survival mode. We gotta get to some living mode. We're gonna have to find some alternative sources, and that's, I always say, stop, we always deal with the symptoms, but nobody wants to point out the disease. We know the disease now. Now let's start figuring out individually and collectively, how do we get to the next place?
So thinking about survival programs, I mean, there's a lot. You got the Asada Alert Network, where my brother Abdul Shakur established that program along with the George Jackson University, and it focused on youth, elder, and women. And when you think about the world today, you look at the Statue of Liberty, we know who that correlate to, right? Imperialism, fascism, thought that the woman should be at his foot, should submit, right?
Right.
So that's a fascist, that's a weak mentality, because we come from that birth, that 9 months, we come from that time machine in the belly, right?
Well, they hate women.
Right. And
they want women in a role of subservience.
Right.
Look at the history of slavery.
Right.
And there in all colonial, trust me, everybody's been colonized. The Asians, the Native American, some of us have Native American blood as black Americans, but all through the world, Europeans colonized. And I'm not here to blame all the Europeans, but their mentality is one of, I exploit. Everybody, the dirty little secret's been happening in China, everywhere they went, they killed the men, raped the women, and created that light skin, dark skin, hapa, whatever they call it. Latinos want to go, oh, we got green eyes. And we romanticize the idea that our rapists loved us. So everybody starts identifying it, well, I'm half white and I'm half German and I'm half. They don't like you, they don't like women, they don't like themselves, because they don't like life. Most abusers abuse to hurt. It's never fulfilled. And we live in a society where these people will never acknowledge, they're not gonna acknowledge that they hurt people, they do it on purpose.
Right.
They poison this water on purpose. They put filler and plastic in it on purpose.
If you don't have balance, you entertain your lower beast. It's feminine and masculine, right? So Jamila, let me ask you, in this day and age of that feminine energy, the new rise of the woman that's always been there, that when I see our sisters who've been on front line, I see my mother, I see Queen Mother Moore, I see so many that came before our time. We could keep going down the list. We could go before, we could talk about the homie Amazons, right? But I see so many sister warriors on front line, right? Tell me about the fight, the good fight, not just involuntary servitude that parallels to the trafficking, but the discrimination whenever they see a strong Black woman on front line.
My name is Jamila Land. I am the co-founder of the Anti-Violent Safety and Accountability Project, where I specialize in high-profile police shootings and community gun violence around the country. The truth of the matter is most people choose criminal behaviors as forms of coping mechanisms for unprocessed childhood trauma. So many of them look like us because we live in a place that we would like to call a country, but it's truly a corporate capitalist society. Not being unpatriotic here, but this country / corporation does not care about us. Take it a little step further, because a lot of people don't realize that legalized constitutional slavery exists. We have been socially indoctrinated to believe that with the passage of the 13th Amendment, that slavery was abolished. Nothing could be farther from the truth. It states that slavery nor involuntary servitude shall be permitted except for the punishment of a crime. But we have been so set up for failure that if you ask someone who looks like us, where do you see yourself in a year, 3 or 5? They can't tell you. You know why? Because they're trying to figure out where they're going to lay their head tonight. Now they're going to pay their light bill tomorrow. We have not been set up to be able to think. If you cannot think, you cannot thrive. And our ignorance is what the system is dependent upon. I will not allow the racist algorithms to dictate to my daughter that she is no more valuable than her eyes, her butt, her boobs, and how much she can denigrate herself and the men in our communities. I cannot express to you the sensation that I have from sitting here amongst you all and not feeling like I'm gonna be called a bitch. I might be raped. I might be slapped. I might be called out my name at any given moment. Because that is what our society has produced. That is what's glorified in the music. That's what's put out in the videos. We don't have these conversations. And it is a necessity. We have been pushed this narrative that we are independent, when in fact, we were designed by the greater creator to be interdependent upon one another. That is how other societies and cultures are able to thrive. It's time for us to stop othering one another. It is time for us to stop seeing our differences and recognize our similarities. We all hurt, we all cry, we all laugh, we all bleed. I'm a firm believer that if we have to continue to check off these boxes on these papers, that we should check them off based according to one's blood type. You know why? Because we all fall within something. A, B, O, negative, positive, right? What is race? We are one race. We are human beings. We are the human race. The work that I do it's so much more than just the legislative piece, because I firmly believe you cannot legislate away hate in a person's heart. It takes a concerted effort in order for us to get to the place. It takes conversations like these in order for us to be able to move the needle in the direction in which we are supposed to be going as a collective of human beings.
I want to hear nothing about what we can't do when we get together. Unfortunately, it has to be really hard and bad sometimes for us to get together. What I hear us say a lot of times is things like the state, the country, those are people. There is no entity that is one conglomerate. Those are people. They're just like you and I. They think, they move, they can be hurt. They're thinking people. So if their thoughts can manifest their ideas, our thoughts can manifest our ideas. It's as simple as that. It's all about thinking first. You have to have a thought process first. You have to think about something, and then you implement a plan. And once your plan is in place, then you move forward with the plan. And that's what's happening in Oakland. Oakland has always been progressive, from the Panthers, like you were saying, the free food programs, all of that stuff started here. None of these schools were doing that. All that came about, health clinics, all that came about from our minds, right here in Oakland. I'm so proud to be from Oakland, even though we got a lot of stuff going on right now. Yeah, they're trying to push us out of Oakland. That's why they publicize everything negative on TV. The media is not our friend. The media is our enemy. That's like, you say, turn off the TV. They're just pushing negative. Yeah, and there's some bad things going on in Oakland, but there's always been bad stuff going on in Oakland, and we've always thrived. So I just want our art to reflect our community. So what we see on these videos and stuff is not everything that goes on in our community. There's so many pockets of positive music going on here in Oakland, positive people doing music. It's just not publicized.
So we have a sister here, and I want to go to the audience because we got some more of my people out in the audience that didn't pulled up. It didn't got real. So do we got a mic out here, or is it somewhere I could get my sister to engage right here?
My name is Jonna Bay, and I really am so happy. I just found out about this event, and I wish I could have shared it with more of my family members. The ones I did contact, they were out the way at work or just not able to come, but I think that more people should understand the importance of these events because we all know someone who's been impacted by, I'm sure, at some point in our lives, we've encountered someone who's a part of the prison system in our families, in our communities, and I know growing up, so my father was really big in the community. He was like one of the first Black people or people of Black people I know for sure that introduced healthy organic foods to our community. And that is so underrated, and I didn't realize it until I got older because I still live in Oakland and we don't have healthy food options in our neighborhoods, and it's really sad that we have to, if you live in West Oakland, you have to drive through the tube to Alameda, or you have to, it's just so, it's so unequal, and I'm so grateful to have had that type of upbringing, to be introduced to good foods, because when you don't have good food in your body, you can't think, and you can't, it all plays a part, and it's just sad to see our people in this condition, and I know a lot of it has to do with the foods that we eat.
Obviously, anytime we have in these kind of forums where it's dealing with liberate our elders, we talk about men, women, and youth, and we talk about strategic concepts of a strategic community release board, addressing CDC, our board, who fail or refuse to let people go because of their school of thought.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And or because they may got arbitrarily received what they call a rule violation report, a write-up. So they use these things against you like a whip. And so what we like to do for the public is educate the public on what's going on inside and out. And a lot of times you see people put masks on and gloves on, and you get 30, 40 people that run up in the establishment and they say, oh, them was Black people who did that. And we don't even know who that was because they was in masks and they was in gloves. So they criminalized this particular class, right? But then you forget there's another particular class who've been out here in the community promoting anti-hostilities, promoting anti-sexism, promoting to uplift the community. And a lot of those are formerly incarcerated people who have a voice at the round table. And we have a voice at the round table. You got Boss, who got organization. You got formerly incarcerated Giving Back, who has organizations at the round table. You got Liberate Our Elders, who have voices at the round table. My organization, California Prison Focus, been around before my time. Been around before doing the San Quentin 6. So this is why I love being part of the California Prison Focus, because when you talk about organization, that's why it's called California. It's the delegates. You could go into so many lawsuits that California Prison Focus did for men, women, youth who fought. So this is why when we was on the hunger strike, and I remember telling them that I'm gonna come out and help y'all, I'm gonna volunteer, because the elders used to say, sometimes if you can't get a job, volunteer. I started off as a volunteer, now I'm the director. But I'm always looking for help. See, because I'm not afraid to say I don't know everything, because I came out here and you got principled thinkers just here in this room. Not just in the state, I got brothers and sisters here in this room when I was in the feds used to say, stop, watch, and listen. Don't go out there and be a crash dummy. Because they told you that life ain't so cheap. The value of who you are as a person to go out there and thrive and build and fight to build with your community. And being an artist, I could have easily came out here talking about dancing, and I'm not undermining nobody's art. First of all, I'm not taking no shots at nobody because people are strong in whatever capacity they have, and we vibe off each other. But I took that sacrifice. I remember when I came home, one of my brothers in this room, I was not able to reach a Scarface, to have a conversation without him saying, go, hey, look out for him. I know him, he real, his narrative is real, and he gonna stand on with it. And it wasn't about money.
I came in on trumped up charges and, false arrests. I was able to learn a lot throughout this process. So the things that I've learned, that's what I would take with me once I come home and get back into the community.
Right.
Because when you look at the justice system, it's not really a justice system, it's an injustice system. It's the opposite.
So a couple of things real quick, right? So number one, felony murder is one of the most oldest, archaic, heinous laws on the books, okay? So for people who may not be aware of what felony murder is, essentially it's the accomplice murder law, where you don't have to be the person who actually committed the crime in order to be sentenced and convicted. My son is currently serving 3 life without the possibility of parole sentences, which is death by incarceration, for a crime that he did not commit, okay? In 2018, we were successful in getting the law here in California changed under SB 1437, which now allows people to be able to go back for resentencing under the 1170D or C. The problem with it is that it's not retroactive and it's not applicable to all crimes. And so hence we are now working on SB 300, which was killed last year, but it was brought back this year. Felony murder, more than 70% of women, hear me and hear me well, more than 70% of women that are incarcerated in the state of California are incarcerated under felony murder convictions. More than 70% of women are the fastest demographic that is being incarcerated. Young, Black, females, impoverished whites, Latinos, but predominantly young Black women are being incarcerated under felony murder. It's an economic engine where, again, a Black life has no value unless it's a commodity in this economic engine that we oftentimes do not profit from, but are the very profit itself. How do we come together collectively to take care of our children, to take care of our elders? How do we bridge the gap where we stop othering one another and we see each other as valuable? Because your life and my life are interdependent. If you're not okay, I'm not okay. If you're not okay, I'm not okay. If you're not okay, I'm not okay. And that is how we have to start seeing one another. We've been socially indoctrinated with an impoverished mindset. And that is what we have to be able to break away from. We can build back our communities. We can take control of our children. We can have our own schools, our own hospitals, where we are no longer seeking emergency care, but where we can go and get preventative care, where our kitchen cabinets are our medicine. We are all one. When you leave this room today, see your brother, see your sister, see your aunt, see your grandmother. When someone has an attitude or they look like they're potentially disgruntled, stop and think that maybe they have something going on in their lives that have absolutely nothing to do with you, and show them love. Together, we have the power. Divided, we die.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Joke Shima Jinsah. I want to take this time to articulate the agreement to end hostilities as it was presented to us on August 12th, 2012. To whom we may concern, and all California prisoners. Greetings from the entire Pelican Bay Shoe Short Corridor Hunger Strike representatives. We are hereby presenting this mutual agreement on behalf of all racial groups here in the Pelican Bay Shoe Shore Corridor, wherein we have arrived at a mutual agreement concerning the following points. 1. If we really want to bring about substantive, meaningful changes to the CDCR system in a manner beneficial to all solid individuals who have never been broken by CDCR's torture tactics, intend to coerce one to become a state informant via debriefing, now is the time for us to collectively seize this moment and put an end to more than 20 to 30 years of hostilities between our racial groups. 2. Therefore, beginning on October 10th, 2012, all hostilities between racial groups in SHU as SEG general population and county jails will officially cease. This means that from this date on, all racial group hostilities need to be at an end. And if personal issues arise between individuals, people need to do all they can to exhaust all diplomatic means to settle such disputes. Do not allow personal, individual issues to escalate into racial group issues. 3. We also want to warn those in the general population that IGI will continue to plan undercover sensitive needs yards, S&Y debriefer inmates amongst the solid GP prisoners, with orders from IGI to be informers, snitches, rats, and obstructionists in order to attempt to disrupt and undermine our collective group's mutual understanding on issues intended for our mutual causes. Because the reality is that collectively, we are an empowered, mighty force that can positively change this entire corrupt system into a system that actually benefits prisoners, and thereby the public as a whole. And we simply cannot allow CDCR/the CCPOA, Prison Guards Union, IGI, ISU, OCS, and SSU to continue to get away with their constant forms of progressive oppression and warehousing of tens of thousands of prisoners, including the 14,000 plus prisoners held in solitary confinement torture chambers, i.e. SHU, for decades. We send our love and respect to all those of like mind and heart. I want each of us to contemplate the true nature and strategic benefit of the agreement to end hostilities, not merely for prisons, but primarily for our communities. The agreement to end hostilities was designed to preserve and expand the solidarity of our prisoner human rights struggle. It also had the objective effect of further undermining the state's untenable position by taking away the argument of internecine racial strife away from them. It has to be understood, and it can't be overly stated, that it's a crime to be poor in America. The notion of the agreement to end hostilities is perhaps the greatest chance that we have collectively to transform our communities. What we mean by that is the contradictions that you find in prisons don't find their origins in prisons. They find their origins in our communities. If we were community-owned and operated, if we had those community-owned and operated economic ventures, educational development initiatives, and social-political empowerment platforms, inclusive of and beneficial to everyone in the community, it is our contention that the potential exists for this and much more if we can extend the AEH to the street. Deliberate Our Elders platform, Cell Block to City Block, the Autonomous Infrastructure Mission, and the various formations that have been produced by the very individuals that were subjected to solitary confinement is perhaps the greatest blueprint that we have to not only implement the AEH in our communities, but to provide a new blueprint for social life. Appreciate this opportunity to speak to you all. Do we win or don't lose?